Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Georgia Department of Education Community for Music Technology. My name is Dr. Andy Edwards, and I am going to be the moderator for the music technology community. I hope you're really excited about joining the music technology community here from the Georgia Department of Education. This is a really exciting new adventure that we're taking where we across the state as music technology teachers, or just those people that are interested in maybe one day teaching music technology, can get together and share ideas and help support one another in an effort to make a stronger music technology teaching community. I've met a lot of you through GMEA and different events like that, but I'm really looking forward to working with you and learning about your ideas and how you teach music technology in your classroom. Today's presentation is really going to be all about me. Sorry to bore you with the details of my life, but in this presentation you're going to find out as much as you can about me in an effort to get to know me better, and I look forward to learning more about you. If you have questions after watching this video, then feel free to put them in the comments of the discussion post that's associated with this video. You can certainly ask me more questions about my life and my experiences, and I'm happy to share any and all my experiences with you. And hey, maybe we have some shared experiences, and you can tell me about those experiences too. So I'm just going to go ahead and launch into telling you a little bit more about me. I started out my musical career as a saxophone player in the middle school band program. I actually grew up in western North Carolina, just north of Asheville, and began as an alto saxophone player. My parents were so thankful that I chose alto sax, because really all I had talked about up to that point was being a percussionist. So when I chose the alto saxophone, it didn't matter how much it cost to buy a saxophone. They were just happy that it was saxophone and not going to be a set of drums in our house. Whew. You're welcome, Mom and Dad. You're welcome. But I was one of like 50 million alto saxophone players in the band program, so that was also fun and challenging, and I had a great middle school band experience. Thank you to my teacher, Miss Sparrow, who was a rockin' band teacher for sure. In my 7th grade year, though, I decided to switch from alto saxophone to be the tenor saxophone player, because every group needed the tenor saxophone player, right? So I switched over and took on the tenor saxophone, and that became like my signature instrument through middle school and high school. Well, when I was in 8th grade, ventured out, and the high school band director asked me if I would join the high school marching band. Well, the only position they had was in the middle of the trombone section. So here I was, an 8th grade saxophone player who marched in the trombone section for the high school marching band. Now, I must say, I didn't really play very much during the show that year. I kind of came on a few weeks late. Pretty sure I was filling a hole for someone who dropped out, and it was like till I was in college before I realized why I didn't carry a trombone in the high school marching band that year. Duh, I didn't know the positions. It would have been so obvious that I wasn't playing, but it wasn't so obvious if I marched tenor sax in the middle and just filled that hole. It looked kind of weird. I've gone back and looked at the pictures. It looked weird, but it was a thing, and I fell in love with marching band. And just the more I learned how to play my instrument, the more I loved music in general. While I was in 8th grade marching band, we went to this little place called Johnson City, Tennessee. And in Johnson City, Tennessee, we were part of the Bands of America regional that was at Johnson City, Tennessee. Well, we did not make finals that night, but we did go watch finals that night. And there was this band that performed. And when they took the field, they took up the entire field. There were 275 of them. They were in red, white, and blue. They looked outstanding. And from the first note they played, my jaw hit the floor. At the end of their performance, all I could think of is how frustrated I was that there were band programs out there that were so big. There was no way they weren't going to win because they were so big and they sounded so good. Of course they were going to win. How could any judge see mistakes if there were so many of them on the field? Blah, blah, blah. You know, justifying everything in your head as an eighth grader. Well, lo and behold, 2 years later, when I was a sophomore in high school, my dad said, "Hey, we're going to have to move." And I was like, "Where are we moving to?" Of course, it wasn't that nice of a discussion, but they were like, "We're going to move to South Carolina." And I was like, did some research. I was like, it's fine. I'm game, but I want to pick where we get to go to school. And lo and behold, right near where we needed to be was the band I had seen in 8th grade, and that was the James F. Burns High School band, and they were called the Rebel Regiment. So I joined up Christmas of my sophomore year. I became the tenor sax player skill-wise at James F. Burns High School for my year. Just on my January audition, I made the wind ensemble. We were actually performing concerts at the state convention within just a few weeks of me joining the group, kind of like Jan Fest for Georgia, but the South Carolina Honor Band Clinic at USC is where we were doing our performance. So that was like just 2 months after I joined up. And then the next year was my first year in their marching band. We won the state championship that year. What a wild ride to go and just be able to increase skills over and over and over again. It was also about this time that I've learned how to play the guitar. It was a fun instrument to pick up. As I got to the end of my high school career, I was talking to my band director, and I was like, "Hey, man, I think I want to do this for a living." And so he was like, you might want to check into Furman University. I'm like, "What is a Furman University?" Had no clue. Well, Furman was actually not very far from where I was at, and it is about a 2,200 person university that's in the foothills of South Carolina, just north of Greenville, and that's where I wound up going. And I was able to study marching band with Jake Bocook. Of course, I'm sure many of you have heard that name before. It was an amazing opportunity to be able to learn a craft from someone with such high skill in the marching arts. And then I was in wind ensemble with Dr. Les Hicken, and everything was just fantastic there. My saxophone professor, Dr. Matt Olson, was just phenomenal. We learned classical, we learned jazz. He challenged my skills so much, and just every step of the way deepened my love for music. And finally, I completed my master's and doctorate degree in music education after I had been teaching for a few years, and I did those both through the University of Georgia, where my dissertation focused on assessing wind band performance. This is my family. So I absolutely adore my family. My family is the reason that I jumped into the music technology field for sure. I'd been a band director for a long time, but I really wanted to spend time with this cute little girl and my wife, and this was a great opportunity for me to be able to do that. So on the far right here, this is my wife, Kinsey Edwards. She's a middle school orchestra teacher. She's fantastic. I tell everyone I know that if you stood the two of us up side by side as pedagogical teachers, she wins hands down every day, all day long. She's fantastic at what she does, and I've learned so much about teaching from her for sure. Love her very much. I'm sure you've seen her around GMEA as well. And this is my daughter, Ansley. She's 2.5 at this point. She's just a little princess. She's just the apple of her daddy's eye. And she loves everything Frozen, like anything Frozen. Anna and Elsa are her heroes right now. But she's a cutie. And I just love getting to spend time with them. I got to say, during the pandemic, the two of them have been such a pleasure to hang out with. It's made watching Ansley grow up and getting to spend more time with my wife has just made the pandemic actually just a little bit fun. at times. So there's that.
My interests within music. My interests within music have changed a lot over the years. When I was in college, my interest was 100% playing the saxophone. It's all I wanted to do: jazz, wind ensemble, everything. Um, as as I continue to grow up, because who's ever grown up if you're in music technology? You're just sitting around playing with toys all day, right? At least some days that's what it feels like. Not all days. But as I continue to grow, my passions have changed from just playing and conducting music to producing and recording, understanding what it takes to make a great recording. For the longest time, I never could figure out why every time I tried to record myself playing saxophone, I never felt like it actually sounded like me on the saxophone. And so I've kind of had this natural quest since college to figure out, like, what does it take to actually make a good produced saxophone sound on a recording. And at this point, getting pretty close. But um, producing and recording has taken over, as well as learning how to play guitar and mandolin. I started learning to play guitar as a sophomore in high school. It was always kind of like a secondary thing. My dad and really my whole family are bluegrass musicians and lovers of the bluegrass genre. So I cut my teeth on acoustical guitar, learning how to fill in as a rhythm player for bluegrass groups. My dad's actually a really good banjo player, and so that kind of started my love for guitar. But of course, I had to learn all the famous rock licks and punk rock licks of the '90s to go along with it, because guitar has grown as a passion for mine. Mandolin has also developed along the years, and then when I started teaching music technology, we got this crazy idea that it would be fun to actually like build instruments and stuff with what happens here at our school. So I actually really enjoy building guitars at this point. So it's not just the playing of the instrument that I love, it's the creativity of the building process and seeing what sounds you can get out of it for sure. Outside of music, I love to do a lot of things, but video games, I'm a geek when it comes to video games. I just love them. It's so fun. The puzzles, the shooting, all that kind of stuff. It's just, I just get into it. It's fun. I like to go mountain biking. Um, Put me on a trail in the mountains by myself, and it's just one of the most thrilling experiences to me to just be me, my bike, and mountain, and a bottle of water, and see how far we can go. Um, a lot of fun doing that. I really enjoy woodworking. It's a passion that is developing more as I go through life, trying to fill out my shop and be able to do um, all the fun woodworking things with building furniture and small trinkets and gadgets and stuff like that. So that's something I definitely enjoy. And, the occasional game of disc golf as we go outside and throw the disc and try to get it in there. I'm no good at it, but man, it's fun to play. It really is a fun game to play. So if you're one of those people that's on the community and you want to go out and catch a game of disc golf somewhere in the state sometime, let's do it. Let's hook up. We'll talk in real life. My experience as an educator. The first school I taught at was a medium-sized rural school, and the assistant principal at the school I did my student teaching at wound up being the principal that hired me at the school that I started at. He got the transfer while I was doing my student teaching, and then he was happy enough with what he had seen that he gave me a shot on a band program that was struggling at the time. My first year there, I was left with 18 students in the marching band and about 30 in the concert program. Those kids were hurt. They had been through some stuff. They were sad. They needed someone, and we made it just a fun experience. In South Carolina, they have the upper state, lower state competitions and the state championship thing going on. I got to say, I'm not going to be shy about it. We were last place in upper state my first year there, but we were in a a 3A school, so we were significantly smaller than anyone else that was there. But 3 years later, we were 60 members strong, and we missed making state finals by just a point on the marching band scale, which was one place outside of the state finals. So things grew there. Kids had a great time. I moved on to school number 2 in 2011. My wife has always taught in Georgia. I was not teaching in Georgia to begin with. So the first opportunity we had to teach in the same state, and we took. So I moved only after 3 years to a suburban school that's pretty large, and took over the band program there. Was able to grow the program over the 6 years that I was the band director, and we made it to be able to perform grade 6 level music and get superior ratings at concert festivals. So it's not by any means the biggest program that the state of Georgia ever saw, but I think we were doing quality music work. My last year, the beginning of my last year in the band program at the school I teach at, my principal came to me. We had just made an expansion to the school building, and he said, I really want you to start a music technology program. And I said, oh, okay, with what kids? Literally, this was like the week of pre-planning, right? I said, with what kids? He said, I'll find some kids to stick in the class. I just want you to teach it. Okay, here we go. So I started the year with 14 students. And I taught the class extended day. And he gave me the commission to either cause him to need to hire a music technology teacher full-time or hire a band director. And I was like, well, you'll have to hire a music technology teacher because I'm not doing that. Well, we went from that first year, I had 14 students the first semester, 14 students the second semester, for a total of 28 students. I recruited like crazy. And lo and behold, in the next year, I had the option whether to go band director or music tech full time. I chose to go full time music technology with 180 students in the second year. The program has continued to stay full the entire time. I don't have empty seats. Even last year, we had 389 kids sign up and say they wanted to take a music technology class. So this was something that has just grown on its own naturally because kids love music. They listen to it all the time, and most of them are really intrigued to find out like how to make their own music and really pick up the craft and the skills that go into learning more about music. Honestly, a lot of these kids have never had the chance to be in a band program. They can't afford the time after school. They can't afford the instrument and stuff like that. So in our lab, we're able to supply them the skills to learn how to make music and potentially go out on their own and make that music as well. And really, that's where I get the joy and the pleasure is seeing those kids come to life learning about music. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about my style of teaching. I do a lot of teaching through listening. In music technology, I'm very convinced that students should hear the music they're going to be producing and understand it before they see it on a page. Most music educators at this point were raised in the concert band tradition, and everything you know about music you learned because you saw it and then learned how to play it. And when you went to college, you saw it and learned how to play it. And it's just not necessarily the way I think these students need to approach music in my classroom. I want them to hear it, to feel it, to love it, and then let's talk about why it works. So it's one of the things that I'm the biggest proponent of is teaching through listening. We do a lot of listening to music in this class, and then like finding out what the students like and deconstructing it so that they can apply it to their own music writing. And even if they don't like it, at least understand why they don't like it and be able to defend why they don't like it. I always tell students, it's okay if you don't like a piece of music in my class. Please don't like everything. but at least know why you don't like it and be able to describe that. I also use a lot of questioning technique. So this is one of the things that's been really hard about teaching in a pandemic, is that if you're teaching to black screens on Zoom or Google Meet or whatever platform you're using to communicate with your students, and they don't have their cameras on, man, it is just really tough to teach with a questioning aspect, because the students don't want to respond to the questions very easily. So I think our students have a lot of knowledge about music ingrained in them that they just don't know. So I try to get their questioning heads to think about their own experiences and relate these concepts to music that they already know and experiences that they've already had. I just think it helps them remember it better, because they already love that music and they're making these connections with music they already have. Honestly, most of the time in my beginning classes, kids have the answers built into them. I just have to draw it out of them with the right questions. So it's play the part of the prosecuting lawyer, trying to get them to make the connections on their own. But when they make the connections, they generally don't forget them too easily. So I'm pretty excited when that takes place. I'm definitely 100% on board with a project-based learning style. When I'm teaching a new concept in class, we start off with 2 or 3 small projects that teach a skill, and then we lead into a larger project that begins to show off that skill in a broader, I would like to say, more publishable musical style. So we're making sure that that larger musical style is a piece that they can get out there in the public and share. What's the point in making music if you can't share that music with others? That's like one of the biggest parts of it, right? Some things about my program at my school. Each year, it's my goal to release 2 to 4 compilation albums where I'm highlighting the work of specifically beginning level music technology students. I don't want to just publish the works of the really polished, radio ready, gung ho music theory, fully supported projects. That's not my goal. So we publish a relaxation CD quite often, and that's largely built on pentatonics and like making just this esoteric kind of pentatonic sound, and something like you might experience at a nice spa or something like that. And we'll publish probably 25 songs to that album. I do that twice a year because I have 2 different groups for each semester that I teach. We also publish a winterscapes, or something that has to do with reminding you of winter and the winter, and then like a school's out for summer kind of album in the spring. So we generally get 2 to 4, most of the time 4, but sometimes we only get to 2 of them, using the beginning music technology students. On top of that, the advanced music technology students release EPs. I generally have 5 to 7 of these 3rd level students each year, and their project is to create a 5-song EP that is radio ready, publishable, and they have to actually get it out there and get the listens on it to get full credit for it. So that's one of the big things, the big highlights at the end of each semester, is getting these EPs out there and really showing off what the students have learned over the course of 3 semesters. Last year, I had several students that were featured in the GMEA Music Technology Student Showcase, and even one of the students won high honors and got to go spend some time in the Tweed recording studio working with their sound engineers to bring her composition up to the next level of performance. I have 5 previous students whose work is now featured on Spotify. One student just released a full album on her own before she heads to Middle Tennessee State University to continue her education. One of my former students, he was a musical genius. I hate to say that he dropped out before he actually finished, but he dropped out because his music was going so well on Spotify that he was going to pursue that full time. So he's got one song with like 900,000 listens on it at this point. So he's on his way to being an active artist and an extremely talented producer, I gotta say. So we're actually getting to the point now where we're attracting live talent from our student pool here at school into our studio, which is really cool. So at the end of last semester, we actually started cutting the first track for an album. It's like a 90s punk rock album that a band called Tyler and Abby are producing here at school. They actually produced their first album that went on Spotify using just their cell phones. And when I found out about that, I was like, "Hey, come visit us in our live studio, and we'll turn this thing into something that like can be legit on Spotify." So we're starting to be able to get more and more live groups. We do have a small studio space that we've acoustically treated as best we can. As long as the dance studio's not jamming too hard, then we're good to go in the recording studio. So that's kind of one of the big things that we do. We recently produced a parody on Luke Combs' 6 Feet Apart. It's called Zoom Zombies, a COVID parody. It's available on YouTube, as you see here. We did this in conjunction with the video production class at our school. So they shot the video. All the music that you hear in this was produced and recorded here at Roaring Records with the students and me playing some of the parts and singing some of the parts, but them doing the production stuff on it. So it's kind of cool. If you get a chance, head on over to YouTube, check that out. It'll probably be a good laugh for you. Okay, in addition to making our music video, we also record our fine arts groups here at school. We have a choral performance here. And we have a video that we shot for the orchestra department. And each of those things just exemplify how our students learn to go in and set up microphones and balance levels and recreate the sound of a live space so that these types of recordings can be made and archived for our groups. They even use these to submit to festivals and to like GMEA if they want to submit for that kind of stuff. So it's really neat to get the opportunity to experience working with the band, chorus, orchestra students in that capacity, especially after being a band teacher for so long. This is maybe what I am most excited about when it comes to our program. Above my classroom at my school is what we call the D3 space. It is a space for science students to experiment with building and manufacturing, 3D printing, all of that kind of stuff. If I was to walk in the space and I didn't know better, I would call it wood shop. But they don't take the wood shop approach to these things, but they have the tools that you would expect to have access to in a wood shop to be able to bring engineering and design to life, which is really, really quite fun. So one of the things about me, as I really like to collaborate with other teachers in the building. So I sat down with these guys and I was like, you guys have so much stuff and so much knowledge. What can we do to really kick off this idea in our school that we're doing something with this space that's meaningful and has longevity? So we actually started building our own music technology equipment. The top center picture is our first project, and that is a Telecaster style guitar. That guitar was entirely made in-house. It started off as a block of wood, and everything was designed and cut on a CNC router or a laser machine, and then fit together, sanded, finished by the students. The electronics were wired up by music technology students, and some of the body work was done by the D3 students upstairs. The next project are the two pictures on the bottom of the right side. We started off by making a guitar effects pedal, and then when we were successful at doing that, we decided to branch out and actually make a electric guitar amplifier. So the electric guitar amplifier was just components and an empty circuit board. When we got it, we found a kit that gave us really good instructions. So one of the scariest things I've ever done is as a music technology teacher, is put 120 volts of electricity into the hands of high school students. And so when we plugged that in and it didn't smoke, it didn't arc, it didn't electrocute anybody, that was a very happy moment, and it's a fantastic guitar amp. I could not be more proud of the students that put that together. After the amplifier, we actually built the microphone that you see on the screen. If you're interested in that, I'd love to share more information with you about how we built that. And finally, the project that's on the very center on the top is an acoustic guitar. You'll notice it's in two parts and not finished. That's because COVID hit. So the project that we were in the middle of was the acoustic guitar build when COVID hit. It is still not finished because just teaching hybrid just doesn't really make this possible. But I was given the honor of being one of the music education innovators by the GaDOE Foundation, and their grant sponsored the tools and the kit to build that guitar. So that's what we're in the middle of finishing, and it's really stinking cool, I gotta say. I think it's going to be a great little instrument when we're finally finished. And hey, that's just another piece of equipment that kids can use to record with when they leave this program. So that's me in a nutshell. I recruit through social media now and posters and everything around the school. So how you can get in touch with me, one of the ways you can get in touch with me is right here on the Georgia DOE community. I'm here for you whenever you want to. You can drop me a message or put a post in our music technology thing, and I would love to interact with you. If you want to watch more about my class specifically, Instagram and Twitter, I'm at roaring_records. On YouTube, I have a lot of tutorial videos and teaching tools that you might like to use at youtube.com/roaringrecords. And feel free to subscribe to that and see the new stuff that comes out. And on SoundCloud, if you ever want to hear any of our student albums, it's PRHS Music Tech on SoundCloud. And I hope that you are excited about taking this journey with us at the Georgia Department of Education community. Feel free to follow Georgia Department of Education at these addresses here. You'll get a lot of great information that comes out from them. Thanks for visiting today. I hope you're excited about taking this journey with us.